Alumni and students to today's midday LinkedIn workshop, Translating the Military Experience, co-hosted by the Alumni Veteran Network and Career Development Center. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Maya Hood. I'm the Student and Alumni Engagement Coordinator for USD's Office of Alumni Relations. I'm also a two-time alumna from the class of 2017, and then while also receiving my master's in 2018. So since during this crazy times that we are living in, I just want to send prayers to you and your loved ones during this time, that you are safe, doing well, despite the challenges. Since this time, the Alumni Association has pivoted to virtual engagement. One of the main goals is really continuing our efforts to support our Toreros and keeping them engaged with and connected to the university. So one of the ways in doing that is offering creative programming, such as this awesome LinkedIn workshop for the alumni and student community. Just a few quick housekeeping items. In addition to this live event that we have, the program will be recorded and shared on the Alumni Association YouTube channel in the near future. So thanks for those who are tuning in later. We ask that you please keep your mics muted during the interview portion of the event. There will be an opportunity for Q&A at the end, and we'll make sure to do our best to answer all the questions during that time. As far as the Zoom preferences, I encourage you to adjust your Zoom settings to speaker view while you're just seeing my face now. I want to make sure that you're able to see the featured speaker's face clearly. And lastly, I also want to let you know that we understand this may be during your lunchtime. So we encourage you to eat. Please don't be shy. And then during that Q&A session that we have, we also encourage you to just turn on your cameras and be able to ask all your questions. All right, without further ado, I'm happy to turn it over to fellow alumna Andrea, who helped make this program happen today. Andrea graduated from the university in 2018 with her master's in higher education leadership studies. She currently serves as the Alumni Veteran Network Board of Director for Legacy Building. Andrea, thank you so much for helping lead the charge today. You can go ahead and take it from here.
You are welcome, Maya, and thank you to everyone who's able to join us today. I'm really excited for this event. Like Maya said, my name is Andrea, and I do serve as the Director of Legacy Building for the Alumni Veteran Network in a volunteer position. And it's just a really great and amazing group of people who are able to kind of come together and continue the spirit of service and everything that we learned at USD. And so really excited for today's event with Alex Lowe here, who is a career counselor and assistant director from the USD Career Development Center. And so Alex, would you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and do a quick introduction?
Thank you, Andrea. Like Andrea said, my name is Alex Lowe, Career Counselor Assistant Director from Career Development Center. I've been working with USD for about 10 years, and I've been providing one-on-one career counseling coaching to students and alumni of all ages and experience level. And also I'm my office liaison person to graduate programs and the Office of International Student Scholars, Transfer Learning Community, and the Military and Veterans Program. Before working for higher ed, I have a few years of background in IT industry.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Alex. So Alex is very much subject matter expert. He does work at the Career Development Center at USD. So he's going to kind of be our main man talking about LinkedIn and how to really build a successful and fruitful profile. And then we also wanted to bring in a veteran who is able to really speak and discuss from the military experience, how you're able to translate those skills into the civilian world. And so with that, we have Sandra Ambotaite, who's joining us. She got her master's degree from the University of San Diego with a Master's of Art in Peace and Justice in 2018. And now she's currently finished her second master's degree of business for veterans at the University of Southern California. And she's graduating in just a few weeks. So we're super excited for Sandra. Sandra, if you want to come off mute, and I didn't even say what you did for a career. So if you'd like to tell everyone, that'd be great.
Thank you. Thank you. No, it's great to be here. I'm currently working as a regional coordinator for Operation Warfighter program. I am a DoD contractor for the Defense Health Agency. And so what I do, I work with transitioning service members specifically who are wounded and ill and injured, and I place them to do internships with federal agencies. And as Andrea mentioned, I'm finishing my master's program at USC, so I have been pretty busy, but I'm really happy to be here and share my experience with you guys.
And what Sandra forgot to mention is that she served 8 years in the Army, was medically retired in 2012. just that little portion of your life.
I will talk about that a little bit more in detail whenever I tell my story, for sure.
Perfect. Thanks, Sandra. Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with Alex, who's going to speak about how to build kind of the background of LinkedIn, how you're able to build a strong profile, and really, utilizing this platform to expand your network. So Alex, you can go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Andrea. I'm going to start sharing my screen. Can you see my screen okay? All right, so now for my portion of presentation, two parts. First is the tips about different part of your LinkedIn profile, the important components, and some tips and pointers. And second part is how to use LinkedIn to build and connect with alumni or other industry professionals. There's a very powerful tool, the alumni search function. I'm going to share that information with you as well. So now to start, let me do a little quick walkthrough of the LinkedIn profile component. So first of all, if you just recent, oops, did I hit, okay, sorry, just hit the wrong button. So if you just recently created your LinkedIn profile, have not done any customization of the URL, your URL will look more random, like the address bar you have here. You can see here, linkedin.com/in/AlexClo, that's customized URL. So I think originally it probably looks like something like that. And so first of all, it's not very sightly to have a URL that's full of the random numbers and the characters. And if you want to put that on your resume or put it on your business card, if people get a hard copy of your resume or business card, and they cannot just click on your URL to follow your profile, and they have to type, and it makes it really easy to type. And so if you want the customized URL that first of all, it looks neat when it's on your resume or business card, and second, it's easier for people to type to follow, all you need to do is go to, when you look at your profile, go to the right-hand side, edit public profile and URL. And again, on the right-hand side, there's a little pencil icon. Then you can try to see if you can find a combination, first name, last name, middle initial, to see if that's still available. So that's how you can customize your URL. That's one of the first things I would recommend if you're building your LinkedIn profile. And the second, let's look at the introduction area, profile pictures. So unless you're working in a profession, you feel that your identity is very sensitive. You don't want people to see your face, and understand there are certain professions you may have concern about protecting your identity. You don't want people to know what you look like, and but in most cases, I would say having a profile picture is pretty important and pretty beneficial. And so LinkedIn serves lots of purpose, besides using that for a job application or communicating with employers, but also networking. So let's say you go to a professional conference or a workshop, you meet with somebody, and the next day you want to connect with some people you meet with there, and you invite them to connect with you on LinkedIn. And if they see your photo, they can clearly see your face. They may remember, that's the person I chatted with during the reception yesterday. I remember him. And so also your profile photo gives your readers a first impression about how you present yourself. And so how you choose your profile photo depend on how you want to present yourself as a professional. I'm going to show you some samples later on, but generally speaking, I recommend having a photo that's taken dedicated for a professional profile, like the one you see that on my profile. That's actually from a professional photographer, so I have a professional lighting and backdrop. If you don't have access to that yet, don't worry, just find a let's find a place has a nice outdoor lighting and a background that's not too distracting, and taking a selfie, even using a selfie stick, and that will be a fairly good profile photo to use for now. And so the kind of photo to avoid, I would say the kind of photo that has someone else's arm across your neck, behind your neck with a plastic cup, and or a group photo, you just cut out other people's faces, and that can be very obvious. And photo that's too far away, people cannot see your face. Like I mentioned earlier, part of the reason to have a profile photo is people will recognize you when you contact them, or like wearing shade, and that just doesn't give a very friendly look. And So, or yeah, I mentioned that standing very far away. I've seen a few alumni having photo like that. That cannot defeat the purpose of that. And I'm going to show you some samples later on when I talk about networking and alumni search. So the rest of the introduction area. So as you can see, after my name, it says Assistant Director, Transfer International Graduate Student Networks at USD. That by default, it would be your current job title or current student status. And so if you do not have a current job title, it may show as a student at University of San Diego. You can certainly customize that by clicking on this pencil icon. So if I want to change my headline, and I can delete this default headline and change that to currently seeking opportunities in. So you can talk about your current career interests, and or maybe you can use this as a quick summary, like expert in so and so and so area, currently seeking opportunity in so and so field. So that's something you can definitely customize. Let's see. So continue the next section after introduction, that will be about section. So what to put on the about section. So especially if you have a lot of work experience before reading your long profile, it would be nice to have kind of like a summary. This is kind of equivalent to the summary or profile section on your resume. And especially the first 3 lines, the readers can read the first 3 lines without the need to expand that. So if you want to use this summary of skills, summary of qualifications, you can use that as well. So now depending on your field of work, and you can write about me section very differently. And there are people working very technical field, they may focus more on the technical expertise. People working in the field that has a little bit more qualitative feature, they may talk about their mission and why they're serving, the cause they're serving. And so for me, my about me section is more like storytelling and what motivated me to do my line of work, and a little bit of summary of my professional background. So let me show you a couple other profile about me section. So, okay, so this is my former boss in my IT days, and his about me section is very, after a brief introduction, his about me section is very specific, listing specific technical skill, expertise, and type of projects he has led, years of experience in doing certain type of work. So this is very factual. So if you're working pretty technical work, your about me section may look more like this. And another, my former coworker, she also works in IT field. Her about me section is a little bit more blended. She talks about software, quick summary, software development leader, and technical knowledge, and talk about people skill, talking about her community building. So it's a little bit more blended between technical and qualitative. So because when people read your LinkedIn profile, typically they have a little bit more time to read into detail comparing to scanning through your resume. So now here's the difference between resume and LinkedIn. Resume is usually used in the initial stage of hiring, when the recruiter typically are processing several hundreds of resumes for many different positions. So the recruiters typically don't have a lot of time to read into details. They scan your resume very quickly, typically under 10 seconds. But if they actually look you up on LinkedIn, and typically that means they're more interested in learning more about you as a professional, who you are as a person. So the about me section, you can talk a little bit more about your story and your professional background, your technical skill can be a little bit longer. And similarly, when it comes to experience, and LinkedIn, their official standards that for LinkedIn, you can write a full paragraph, write detail of your story about your work, and that's totally okay. And I'm not against that, but if you want to copy and paste your resume bullet point into your work experience section, that's totally okay too. Please don't feel that you have to rewrite your entire work experience just because this is LinkedIn. This is different from resume. And in fact, you can use exactly the same thing from your resume. So now for the experience section, some tips here. First of all, when you add a employer, as you can see, I'm adding job title, employer type, and company name, Microsoft. And so if I just type Microsoft without choosing the Microsoft profile from the drop-down menu, and I just save, it will show up on my profile as a generic icon called Microsoft. It's not going to connect to the Microsoft company profile. So actually, I do have a employer like that on my profile. So this graphic and web designer VR National, because that's a small company, they don't have a LinkedIn profile. So I cannot connect my work history to their LinkedIn profile. So if anybody click on this icon, it's going to do a generic search VR National. But if you look at all other employers I have, and when I list them as my employer, I connect them with the employer's LinkedIn profile. So if anybody click on that, for example, click on USD, that take you to USD's profile. Then you can see if they have any current job posting, the alumni search, which I'm going to demo a little bit too. So that's one thing about experience to connecting to employers. And a couple other things I would like to share about experience sections that you can add media files. So when you add your work experience beside the bullet point description, you can upload media files. So that makes sense for, especially for if you have any kind of work, you can show any visual. For example, like you do event planning, you want to show the flyers that you design, or you have infographics about the result of your work and the annual report, things like that. You want to provide the readers a visual, you can upload media files. So now let's go to the details about how to translate your military experience to the message that civilian employees can easily understand. And I will leave the detail of that part to Sandra. But one thing I do want to mention is that when I work with student veterans, I often tell them that just think about how much responsibilities you have when you're in the military. And you're a typical 19-year-old college student, and if they mess up on their coffee shop job, they lose one customer, and big deal. And when you're in the military, if you and your team overseeing $20 million worth of equivalent, if you mess up on your job, there will be serious consequences. And so if there's any impressive measurable responsibility or impact, like how many people you supervise, the amount of inventory under your care, and the value of the equipment that you maintain, and you can cite this number as well. So that's the experience section. Education, that should be pretty straightforward. I would, again, make sure you choose the school's icon from the drop-down menu, and any activity in society. If you don't feel like you want to elaborate details about coursework or like a student organization, you can quickly summarize them under education. But there are also other ways. If you want to elaborate more about like a school project, coursework, or student organization, you can add professional section. So add introduction section, add professional section. Beside work experience education, under accomplishment, you can list courses, projects, honors awards, language skills, and publications, student organizations. And so if you want to elaborate more about your student leadership, for example, or your coursework, you can use the you can add accomplishment section. Okay, so now make sure you add your skills, and maybe avoid really generic one like leadership or communication, but list a skill that's more unique to you. And for example, like if you're an environmental studies major, your background in environmental policy, environmental consulting, and that's a specific skill that will help you stand out when employers doing the search. Okay, so that's like a quick overview about LinkedIn profile. Oh, I think one thing I forgot to mention is that you may see that some people have this background photo, this cover photo behind the profile photo. It's not required, but it looks nice. And so if you want to have a background photo, just choose something maybe related to your field of work. And maybe if you do a presentation on the podium, your conference, and you can put a photo like that, or maybe you want to put the campus of USD and show the employee when they read, oh, you go to USD. And again, I don't think the background photo makes a huge difference, but instead of leaving a background photo in the generic, let me see if I can find someone who doesn't have a background photo, but the generic icon looks kind of like this generic icon for employer. So instead of leaving that to the generic background, and you may as well just add a background photo. Okay, so is there a chat question? Oh, Andrea. So let's see. Yeah, this is how it looks like when you don't have a background photo. There's absolutely nothing wrong about it. And I just think it's a nice addition if you put something that maybe related to your field of work, and or maybe that's like related to your past experience, the conference you attended or presented, or the college campus you attended. So that's the overview of a LinkedIn profile. And also, I want to show you one really powerful tool on LinkedIn. So you can go to USD's alumni search by click on USD's profile. So I'm taking the shortcut here. Just click on USD and go to alumni. So now for networking purpose, you can search for USD alumni based on where they live and where they currently work for, who they currently work for, and what do they do, their major, their field of study, what they put under their skills, and how closely you're connected. And so now, let's see, people who currently working US Navy. So earlier I mentioned I want to take this chance to show some profile photos, and I think this is the opportunity. So if you want to show a profile photo of you in uniform to show people your background in military service, that's totally fine, as long as that looks formal and they feel that represent you, your professional image, that's totally fine. And you want to have a profile photo wearing civilian clothing, that's totally fine as well. And again, as long as it clearly shows your face and you look friendly, look professional, and there's no distracting background, and then I think that's fine. And some of those photos, as you can see, maybe a little bit too far away from the camera when people cannot see your face, and that cannot defeat the purpose of having a profile photo. Okay, so like this one, this is like Matt's profile photo. It's not a bad photo, but you can see that this is probably what he cut off from a group photo. There are other people's face get cut halfway. And so if you have opportunity to take a photo that only show your own face, a more dedicated photo, that will make an even better impression. Okay, so now I'm showing you this alumni tool. So let me use the example. So for example, if I am thinking about, I want to work for Department of State, I want to see our alumni working there. So what kind of degree do they have? Do they work in Department of State? Especially I'm interested in Foreign Affairs Officer. So this person, MBA background, this person has background in Master of Public Administration. Jennifer M, she has background in Peace and Justice Studies and international relations, and this person also has international relations background. So if you want to click on any of those alumni's profiles, see, so how did she get a job with the Department of State? And you can look at her profile, and she did an internship with a law office and a nonprofit organization, and she was an RA at USD. When she was in graduate school at UCSD, she did an internship, Mexican affairs intern and the public affairs intern, and then foreign service officer and vice consul now. So if I want to reach out to Haiti, I can try to connect with her directly. And if you want to connect with people directly, I always recommend add a personalized note to introduce yourself. And because people receive a lot of random connection requests and invitations, and sometimes people don't even click on your profile if they receive lots of those random invitations. They don't know you, they may just skip it. But if you send them a personalized message, when they look at your message and you mentioned that, hey, I'm interested in connecting with you because I'm very interested in learning more about the careers with the Department of State. I would like to connect with alumni and learn from your stories. And in that case, there's no guarantee she's going to respond to you, but at least if she reads your message, she knows that you're seriously interested in learning about their experience. You're not just randomly clicking on their profile. So always add personalized connection requests. And the second is that even if you do that, there's no guarantee that they're going to read it, because some people just don't read their LinkedIn message. And so if you really want to connect with somebody, you can see if you have mutual connections. So I share 8 mutual connections with Haiti. So if I look at those 8 individuals, I may pick the one that I feel more comfortable and ask them to introduce me. And so now, how do you write a personalized message, and how do you ask mutual contact to introduce you? So there are some networking tips and message samples I want to share with you. This is on our Career Center website, sandiego.edu/careers. If you go to either undergraduate or graduate student, look at career resources. And on the lower right-hand side, there's a networking LinkedIn tips. So this guide has, besides general tips of networking, LinkedIn checklist, also comes with some. This is an example. If you only have 300 characters to type, how do you write a brief introduction message when you try to connect with somebody? So this one's asking mutual contact, in this case, a professor, to introduce you to alumni. So if you do connect with alumni, you want to set up a meeting with them, how do you introduce yourself? And what do you say to set up a meeting to meet, to learn from their story? So this is an example of setting up an informational interview. And other tips about what kind of questions to ask and how to follow up, stay in touch. And you will find tips from this guide here. I'm going to copy this in the chat. So with that, I am going to give the podium to Sandra. I'm just going to start sharing my screen.
Thank you, Alex. That's very informative, a lot of good information. So I guess I'll just kind of jump in and talk a little bit about my story and how I transitioned out of the military and try to set myself up for success. As mentioned earlier, I spent 8 years in the Army. Don't hold it against me. I know I'm surrounded by the Navy and Marines here in San Diego, but I promise it wasn't my fault. So fun fact about me, I actually joined the military without speaking any English. Probably the few phrases that I knew was, I don't speak English and I don't understand. And those are the phrases that I told the recruiting station every morning when I was going to work. I constantly told them, I don't understand, I don't speak English, leave me alone. However, a year later, they got me and I ended up joining the Army. I did not know that there were other branches such as the Marines and the Navy and the Air Force. And so as you can imagine, the first few years in the military was very interesting for me. Unlike many service members information, I always raised my hand and always volunteered, and everybody always kind of laughed at me. As you know, in the military, we usually don't volunteer. We've been voluntold to do stuff. However, I always volunteered, and quickly I realized that I'm just going to scrub toilets and do some not very fun stuff. However, later I was noticed and kind of was upgraded to shredding papers instead of scrubbing toilets. And then even eventually I was selected to be on color guard, as well as I got the opportunity to work for operations department. My actual job in the military was medical administration. So, you know, as I mentioned, I was always kind of curious and wanted to learn a little bit more. And that actually, the curiosity took me a long ways. So unfortunately, my career in the military was cut short due to an accident. I spent a month in the hospital learning how to walk again, and I was absolutely devastated, scared, and depressed. My plan was to stay in the military and do 20 plus years. I made my E6 in just under 5 years, which is very quick. And so I knew that, you know, for sure I'll be a command sergeant major one day, and I'm going to do 20 plus years in the military. So hearing the news that I'm no longer needed and due to my injuries, I will have to transition out, I was definitely devastated. However, for, you know, all of you who are in the military or have been around the military, you know that we have to adapt and overcome, and quitting is not an option. So I had to kind of march on and find different ways to succeed. So quickly after my injuries and learning that I have to transition, I was referred to the TAPS training. You've heard of this, the transition assistance classes. And that's about a week-long class that kind of briefly takes you through resume building, through you know, LinkedIn, interviewing skills. And I quickly realized that the 1 week after 8 years in the military was not going to be enough for me to be successful. So I continue staying proactive and continue learning, and I reached out to different resources that were offered to the military service members. And I decided to participate in Operation Warfighter program, which placed service members to do internships with federal agencies. And so I did my internship at Defense Health Agency in Denver, or Defense Homeland Security in Denver. I was offered a job at the end. However, I decided to go to school. If you familiar with federal agencies at all, usually once you hit certain GS level, you have to have a degree. And at that moment, I didn't have a degree. So I really wanted to ensure that I set myself up for success and get a degree first, and then kind of pursue my next career. So I decided to apply for San Diego State University and move to San Diego. I was switching my careers completely to from medical. I wanted to go into international studies. And so I applied for international security and conflict resolution for my bachelor's. And even while I was studying here in San Diego, I was new, I didn't have a support system. So I decided to continue reaching out to different volunteering opportunities, internships. And so I interned with National Conflict Resolution Center, where later I was also offered a job as a hearing officer for Section 8 program, the city and county of San Diego. And so after graduating from San Diego State, I applied for a master's program at USD, and I decided to study peace and justice at Kroc School. And so even then, while I was doing my 2-year program, I said internships have been so good. That's how I kind of landed the jobs, doing the internships and volunteering. So I decided to apply for the Pathways internships. And specifically, I was going for Department of State. And so I decided to leverage my skills and experience that I already had in the military and prior to the military. I knew that there's huge competition when it comes to pathway internships and applying for those positions. And a lot of people were always looking for internships in West Europe or Australia or any exotic places, right? But I knew for sure that nobody knows about Lithuania, which is a tiny little country in Eastern Europe. And not many people speak the language. Well, I did. I'm from Lithuania. I knew that, I would kind of leverage my skills and set up myself for a good chance to get into that internship. And so I did. I completed my internship in the middle of the summer of the 2-year studies that I did at Kroc School. I interned at the U.S. Embassy in Lithuania the whole summer and was offered a job. However, I had to decline that because I had to come back and finish my master's program. And so, as I mentioned, currently I'm finishing my second master's in business at USC and also working as a regional coordinator for Operation Warfighter program. And so the reason I'm mentioning that, because in the beginning, I mentioned that I did the internship at the Operation Warfighter program. And so I just want to kind of show you how certain opportunities and things happen for a reason, because I did the internship at the Operation Warfighter program. And I still remember how when I applied for this job as a regional coordinator, I actually, first question that the panel asked me, they said, tell us something that we don't know about you. And I said, well, I went through your program. I know how effective it is to help me through my transition. So I think it was a selling point to them, and I got hired to do this job that I do now. So I truly believe in internships and volunteering. I think it's the best hidden secret. There are so many different opportunities for the military and anyone who military related families. There's OWF that's maybe a little bit more specific to wounded, ill, and injured, but there's also Skill Bridge. There's work study programs through the VA. There are pathway programs. If you go on USA Jobs, there are different opportunities with federal agencies. So I think internships are very special and especially important when trying to switch careers, right? In my situation, I was going from the medical into the international security, and I knew there's no way I can translate my medical skills into international security field. So I really ensured that I boost my resume and make myself competitive as I can be by volunteering, interning. And internships can also be a win-win situation. You get to show the company who you are, you get to meet people, you show them what you're capable of, but also you learn and see, is it a good fit for you? As we transition out of the military, a lot of times we just kind of jump into the first opportunity that comes our way because we don't know what's out there. We don't know what we like, what's a good match. So I truly believe that it takes time to really explore and see what you like and what you don't like. And the best way to explore it is actually, get your foot in the door, start interning, volunteering, talking to people. Also, if you're transitioning into the same field that you did in the military, make sure you apply the skills and experiences that you gained in the military. So leverage your experience and ensure to translate those the experiences into the company's language, or into the civilian language. A lot of the stuff that you can pick up from the job postings. So a lot of times I really encourage, if someone is applying for federal jobs, right, look at qualifications and skills that they're asking for, and whatever relies, kind of use the language that they're using on your resume. One big hidden secret is that a lot of the times the computers actually feed the resumes out if you don't have those certain skills and experiences and the words do not match. So they can actually feed you out before you even get to the hiring managers. So I think that's really important to read the position description and what they're looking for. Also, make sure you avoid the military jargon and acronyms. As you know, military we love our acronyms. So make sure you explain them, write them out. Also, words such as squad leader, platoon sergeant. I know when I made my resume, I had all these words in there. So make sure you replace, officer in charge to maybe manage X amount of personnel or a certain budget. So make sure you play with these words and translate it into the language that civilians will understand. Also, make sure you put your military job title, skills and experience, as I said, and the employees understand, but also mention the job that you're applying for in the first paragraph. So I think that's really important. And then focus on describing how your skills and experiences apply to that. Also, if you speak other languages like me, or maybe you have a clearance, make sure you include that as well in the first paragraph. I think it's a huge asset or skill also to have. There are also different websites that you can rely on. I know there's like veterans.gov, there's Department of Veteran Affairs, Hiring Our Heroes. There's so many different resources online. And if you just Google translating military to civilian skills, there are different websites where you can pick your branch, pick your MOS or your job title, and it actually will find different job opportunities in the civilian sector that matches your MOS. So that's a good way to also kind of scope it out, what's out there, and see what language they use in order to help you create a strong resume. Also, leverage your clearance. I know it's not necessarily a skill, but I work with federal agencies now, but I also related or work with a lot of people that work in the DoD sector, companies such as Northrop, Lockheed Martin, General Atomics, Boeing. If you're interested in going into certain jobs, such as like DoD jobs, or maybe something related to IT, cybersecurity, communications, some of those agencies are actually looking for candidates that have active clearance. One thing that I had to learn the hard way, and I didn't know when I got out of the military, I thought if my clearance was re-upped a year or two before I was getting out, I thought I'm going to have that clearance for the next 8 years or so. Well, that's not true. As soon as you leave the military, your clearance does go inactive because you don't have a sponsor anymore. So if you're interested in jobs that require secret, or, like I mentioned, those DoD specific jobs, I would say start applying early enough before you separate from the military, or those first 2 years, because I think your clearance is inactive for the first 2 years, but then it kind of falls off the radar after 2 years completely. So definitely pay attention to those little things, because sometimes even as a service member who's, finishing school or getting out of the military, we're competing with other people, and other people don't have clearances. So, it's a strong, not necessarily skill, but an asset to have. And I think some companies are even willing to make exceptions for certain skills and experience that you might not have, as long as you have active clearance. So definitely leverage that. Last, or not last, but as you heard from Alex, and I'm a true believer, it's all about networking, right? I always say networking is just one letter away from not working. As you plan your transition, get reference letters, maybe from your commands, or if you're in school, ask your teachers to write reference letters. Start working on your resume, build your LinkedIn page, and just simply connect with people. I think one thing to emphasize too as well that, you know, it takes work and it takes time to build those long-lasting relationships. So just adding somebody on LinkedIn and leaving it at that, it's not necessarily building your network. It's just adding somebody and kind of leaving it, and you know, not really knowing who they are. But so make sure that you follow up, that you send an email, that you build those relationships and ensure that you build them, you know, they're long-lasting relationships, and you build them before you start applying for jobs. Because once you start applying for jobs, it kind of looks like you're just only reaching out for them just for help. So you want to be genuine. You want to not always just ask for help, but also just simply make those connections and be curious. Also ask people out for coffee and do informational interviews. I think that's what helped me when I was transitioning. I was always curious, I always asked questions. I wanted to learn more because, like I said, being in the military, we're kind of very focused on our mission, and we do one thing and we do it really well, but we don't know what's out there. And one way to find out is just simply talk to people. Another sad realization for some of us is that rank is no longer relevant once you get out. So don't put rank in your resume. Once you get out, you know, you're no longer Staff Sergeant Ambotaite. I'm just Sandra. Nobody cares about my rank. Definitely leave the rank alone, but use those skills and experiences that you accomplished. And then, you know, working with service members now who are transitioning out of the military, sometimes I see some service members that come in and maybe they served for 15 years, 20, 25 years, they have really high ranks, but they come in and they overly confident, they think that the world owes them something. I always say, stay humble, but know your worth and be open to opportunities. We shouldn't expect anything. We volunteer to join the military, so no one owes us anything, and we're not entitled to anything, but we are fortunate enough to live in the United States where we have a lot of support and we have a lot of resources. So definitely use those resources, but do not act entitled, I would say. And finally, find mentors who will support and believe in you. USD is a great resource for that. Reach out to your board of directors, alumni association, your teachers, or maybe even students that you look up to in your classroom. So make sure to leverage those connections and build your network. This event is a perfect opportunity to connect to one another. If there's somebody that you don't know, maybe you can ping them on LinkedIn, or, you know, shoot them a private message and say, hey, would you like to meet for coffee? And just kind of learn, you know, about what you do and just kind of exchange the information. So this is definitely a good time to network and meet new people. And I look forward to connecting with all of you. I know there's a lot of familiar faces on this call, and there's some that I haven't met before. So if you want to connect, if there's anything I can do to help, feel free to reach out and connect with me on LinkedIn. And I'll stick around for the Q&As. That's all I got.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sandra and Alex. Can we put up some reactions in the chat, or, you know, an actual round of applause? Kevin is just raising the roof there. You know, they gave us a ton of information, and so I hope you're, you know, able to absorb and digest, but also I hope you've come, you know, ready to ask them questions. They are the subject matter experts, you know, with either in a career format or with some lived experiences. So thank you so much for all that great information, and I'm excited to open up for the question and answer piece. So putting it all back on you. Does anyone have any questions that they want to bring?
I do have a question. I have kind of two, but it's kind of the same. So I guess it's easier to explain. I'm in a position where I know I want to end up going to law school. That's what I want to do. I want to become an attorney in the future. It's just a matter of getting to that goal. And I hear you have similar, I guess, I'll say, experiences in getting to where you want to be. My question is, how did you best support yourself in these intermittent periods before getting a career that pays you well enough to pay rent, pay for food, and just like live?
I'll jump in. So personally, when I was going to school, obviously I was medically retired, so I was getting a little bit of the pension there. But you know, benefits such as GI Bill and the BAH and voc rehab, a lot of people don't know about that, instead of 36 months, you get 48 months, but on top of it, they pay for all your books. I mean, Book Rehab paid for my internet. If they paid for my, if you need a computer, they'll get you a computer. So I was just reaching out to different resources. There's also Centennials of Freedom scholarship that I applied for, and they help you with rent. They give you like $1,000 a month, I think, while you're in school. So like I said, there's a lot of different resources out there. I made sure to reach out to these resources, and then I still had a part-time job. And once again, not to kind of be too repetitive, but it's all about those internships and volunteering. I started volunteering with National Conflict Resolution Center when I was doing my undergrad, and that led to an independent contractor job that was very flexible with schedule. So just doing those kind of things really kind of added up and helped me through the schooling until I got that dream job and a full-time job with benefits and all that stuff.
Well, thanks. I guess the last part is I'm trying to come up with a plan and telling Voc Rehab why I need to go to law school, but also preparing in case they don't cover. I guess I could go into something like, public policy to go to grad school for and do it that way. So I guess it's just like you're saying, I was looking at USA Jobs while you're talking and trying to find a good job. I was like, wow, these pay very well. And I said, for the GS9, you must have experience of a GS7. GS7, you must have experience as, GS4 or under, but then there is no GS4 under positions. So I guess then I'd have to find an internship that would meet those, requirements for a GS4 or 3.
So Kevin, to answer your question, as far as GS goes, if you've never worked for the GS in a GS level, that really doesn't apply to you. So usually when you go to duties, and then I think there's qualifications on the bottom, it does say that in order to be a GS7, you have to have GS, 5 experience prior to that. But that's for if you're already GS, in order for you to get promoted from 5 to 7, you have to have 5 before you get to 7, because they can't skip those steps. But if you've never been in the federal sector, you can substitute that experience, saying I have a bachelor's degree and so on. So I've led people or, done certain duties in the military that apply to that job. So that, you do not have to show specifically that you have GS5. You can do the combination of education and experience that you've done in the military or after the military.
That helps a lot. Thanks. I'm gonna go start applying.
And Sandra, there was something in the chat. Jen asked, you can substitute education for years of experience, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And that's why, kind of specifically to what Kevin asked, I work in the federal, so I'm maybe too much stuck on the federal sector, but I know for sure in the federal sector, if you have, a bachelor's degree or master's degree, they look at that very highly. And if you're a veteran, if you have some kind of veterans preference, you can also, that kind of puts you a leg above other candidates, and you can definitely substitute experience with the education.
Awesome. Thanks so much for answering that. And it looks like Alexandra, you have your hand up for a question.
Yeah, I had a quick question. So I accepted an internship in DC this summer, and I'll be moving there early June. And I'll be working with a nonprofit organization out there. And I was kind of just wondering if you have any tips, thanks Kevin, if you have any tips for networking out of state. I don't really know anyone there yet. I know the executive director of the nonprofit organization, my advisor with the program I'm with, but I'm kind of starting from zero, but I'm open to the possibility of getting a full-time job there.
Alex, you want to go ahead and start for that one?
Okay, I'm not familiar with any network that's more specific for former service members, but I think a couple of resources we can use here. First of all, LinkedIn, like I mentioned earlier, LinkedIn has an alumni search function, and because LinkedIn is so popular, we will probably find a lot of USD alumni currently living in DC area. So besides LinkedIn, there's another tool. Let me share my screen briefly. Okay, so still under the USD Career Center resources, and you scroll down lower right-hand side next to the LinkedIn and networking, there's this team platform. You have never used team platform before, check it out. So this is very similar to LinkedIn alumni search, but the mentors featured here, most of those are alumni volunteering to connect with USD students. So if you go to Flash Mentoring, so currently there are about 2,000 active mentors. Most of them are alumni. So you can select by location, by majors and degree they received, and other filter like industry or health topic. And so if you check Washington, DC as a location, then you'll be able to see the alumni mentors currently live there. So if you want to contact anybody, look at their profile, look at their professional background, what kind of help topic they may provide. And if that's someone that matches your interest, you want to reach out to them. Then, for example, D, actually she's my coworker, but if I look at her profile, I find that, oh, she offers certain job search topics, or maybe I'm interested in her organization or professional background, I can message her directly. Unlike LinkedIn, LinkedIn will ask you to connect first before you can write a full message with the other LinkedIn members. This team network, you can write a full message to them directly. Here's some message templates. You can even set a meeting to meet with them, or do a virtual meeting with them right away. And so because those alumni mentors, they volunteer to be in this database. So if you reach out to them and they're not going to be surprised, why are you contacting me? I'm not interested in connecting. So the expectation is that if you reach out to any of the alumni featured in this database, they're supposed to respond to you within 3 days. So check this out. See if there's anybody in DC that you may want to connect with. Okay.
Thank you.
Sandra, do you have anything to add on your end?
So I'm huge when it comes to networking. I always try to, whether it's just Googling veterans network community in wherever town you go into. But for example, in San Diego, we have Veterans Beer Club. Obviously, you don't have to drink a beer to be part of it, but we meet once a month, and we just simply network between, the veterans that are transitioning, and then companies that come out that looking to hire veterans. And I believe we have a chapter in DC. I can double check. And you can also go on LinkedIn and just type in Veterans Beer Club and send a message. One of us will reply. We'll double check if we have a chapter in Washington to make sure that you can, participate and go network once a month. But like I said, simple places like that, just simply networking. I have some friends actually that I studied with at USD that transitioned out and moved to DC, and they're working for, I don't know if it's nonprofit organizations, but they studied peace and justice, so they work in that field. But I'm more than happy to connect you with them. They've been in DC for a little while now. They know the area. They're USD alumni, so they would be more than happy to help you out.
Awesome. And just a side note, Alexandra, I also work for a nonprofit, and we have an office in DC, so would love to connect with you as well, since you're in the nonprofit space. I believe we have Jen who has a question as well.
Yeah, so it's more for Alex, but if you have experience as well, Sandra. And so the question is of how to utilize the LinkedIn certifications. I've heard of them in the past. And so, for those students or folks like myself who are in between jobs right now from just graduating but still trying to stay competitive, like, are those free, like different certifications that you can access on LinkedIn to be able to like bulk up your resume and things like that?
Actually, I'm not very familiar with that. Can you elaborate a little bit more about the certification?
I've heard just briefly from a friend of mine who actually graduated the program with me that she was doing like a random data analysis certification through LinkedIn. Again, I don't even know if it's free or if it's you need to have premium. So maybe it'll be a question for anybody that knows it.
Hey, everybody. Maybe I can jump in and share since like anybody had an insight there. You might be talking about learning solutions. LinkedIn has a lot of programming that you can, if like I'm an educational provider, right? I can develop leadership curriculum. I can put that on LinkedIn as a learning solution, and people can take that course and get a certificate either from me or through LinkedIn. So you can explore lots of great learning opportunities and get some certificates in that through LinkedIn, not necessarily a certificate in how to use LinkedIn or marketing with LinkedIn, but more content around whatever people are providing, but they're using LinkedIn as a medium to share that with the rest of the world.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that, Eric. And obviously we do have two very esteemed presenters, but love to rely on, the information and knowledge from everyone here. Sandra, did you have something to add?
Yeah, so I have heard about the LinkedIn certifications. We talked about it in my one of my classes earlier. I don't know if they're free. From my understanding, maybe they just help you prepare for certain certs. I don't know if they pay for it. But if you're interested in free certifications, such as IT or Six Sigma or PMP, you can get them through Onward to Opportunity. That's a great program that's available for veterans, active duty, and their families. So if you're interested in getting those certs and not having to pay for them, Onward to Opportunity is a great resource.
Thank you so much for that. And I want to make sure that we do respect the time boundary that we have for all of you today. So I will go ahead and bring it back over to Maya. Thank you so much for everyone who asked questions, for Alex and Sandra, who just completely blew us all away with your knowledge and your insight. Excited to continue the conversation as we all potentially get new careers and internships and volunteer opportunities.
Perfect. Thank you, Andrea, for leading that Q&A portion. Again, we want to thank everyone for joining us today. A special thank you to Alex and Sandra again for all of your insight, tips, and tricks in regards to LinkedIn and really expanding your military experience and building on your profile and really expanding your networks. Just to quickly wrap up here, we do have a screenshot of the upcoming USD Alumni Association virtual programs. They vary from alumni spotlights, trivia nights, networking events. For more information on the programming, please feel free to visit our website, alumni.sandiego.edu. In addition to that, Alex did mention the Career Development Center website. So if you want to look and find more information and resources, please visit alumni.sandiego.edu/careers. And again, don't forget to connect with the Alumni Veteran Network on socials to stay up to date with all things related to the alumni veteran community. I know the links were also placed in the chat, but there will be a thank you email to include all those important resources following the session. And then should you have any specific questions for Alex or Sandra, I will also include their information in that follow-up email as well, should you want to connect with them further. Lastly, we just want to thank you again for joining us. We hope you have a great rest of your day. Have a great rest of your week and take good care.